All right, welcome. Today, we are diving into a topic that is, well, it's about as personal as it gets. We're talking about the ego. That invisible force that can seriously shape our reactions, our relationships, our entire sense of self. So, let's get right into it and pull back the curtain on this thing that might just be running your life more than you realize. So the material we're digging into today kicks off with this really honest warning. Look, you might see yourself in some of the things we're about to talk about. And yeah, it could feel a little exposing. But honestly, that's exactly why this is so important. Because becoming aware is always the first step to really understanding yourself. So our journey here really starts with just noticing something a little off. A pattern that keeps showing up. A strange set of behaviors that might seem totally random at first, but as you'll see, they're all pointing to the exact same thing.
Have you ever met this person? Someone does something nice, like sending an email full of praise, but there's a catch. They're not just doing it to be kind. Nope. They're waiting for that public reply, that big shout-out. Their kindness is basically a transaction, and what they want in return is recognition.
Or how about this one? The person who, in any room, makes a beeline for the most important person there. And it's not about making a genuine connection. Not really. The goal is 100% strategic. To be seen with them, to get some of that status to rub off, and to climb that social ladder. When you see these kinds of patterns again and again, it's easy to start thinking, is it me? Am I attracting this? But what the source material suggests is that something much, much deeper is going on here. It's not a coincidence, and it's not just about a few weird people. It's about a fundamental part of how we humans work. So, what is it? And there it is. The answer? The ego. Now hold on. It's not some kind of villain we need to fight or destroy. The ego is really just the identity we build for ourselves. But here's the key, the really crucial point. It only becomes a problem when we have no idea it's there, when we're unconscious of it. That's when it's silently pulling the strings, driving our behavior without us even realizing it.
Okay, so how do we actually spot this invisible force in our own lives? Well, let's break down the 7 most common ways the ego pops up day to day.
First up is a big one, something I think pretty much everyone wrestles with. That powerful, sometimes totally desperate, need to be validated and recognized by other people.
This looks like posting something you're really proud of and then feeling that little sting of disappointment when it doesn't get a ton of likes. It's that awful feeling of being invisible when your hard work isn't shouted from the rooftops. And this example is just perfect. You help organize a big event, and then you find yourself compulsively checking social media to see if you got a mention. That's the ego, right there, asking, did they see me? Am I important?
All right, the second sign is a little more subtle. This is when the ego tries to boost its status, not on its own merits, but by kind of borrowing it from other people.
I mean, we all know this person. The classic name dropper. They're always talking about their good friend who's so powerful or so famous. They do it because they believe that being close to someone important makes them important. Their sense of value isn't coming from inside. They're trying to rent it from someone else's status.
Sign number 3. Oh man, this is a trap. I think we've all fallen into at some point. The endless, draining cycle of constant comparison.
The thing about the ego is it's never happy with its own journey. It has to look over at the lane next to it and see how it stacks up. This is what fuels that gut punch of jealousy when a friend gets a promotion, or, as the example says, a leader feeling that bitterness when a peer gets picked for a cool opportunity. The ego's logic is simple and brutal. Their success is your failure.
Moving on to number 4. This one is a real telltale sign of the ego's grip. Emotional reactions that are just way, way out of proportion to what actually happened. And what's so fascinating here is what this tells us about just how fragile the ego can be, right? A fragile ego just can't handle even the smallest bit of criticism. This example with the author, it's perfect. You've got hundreds of amazing 5-star reviews, but that one single 1-star review, that's the one that crushes them. That's all they can see. See, to the ego, criticism isn't just feedback. Oh no, it's a direct attack on its very existence.
Number 5 is a classic. It's probably the one we think of first when we hear the word ego. It's that deep, persistent need to be the center of attention. Now, this can be super loud and obvious, or it can be really subtle. The ego just craves reactions. Good, bad, it doesn't matter. And this example is so specific to our times. The person who never says a word in public, but the second you post something dramatic, they slide into your private messages. They want to be part of the drama, part of the energy, but on their own hidden terms. Okay, sign number 6 gets right to the heart of the ego's biggest fear. It's this intense attachment to a very specific identity and this desperate need to control how things turn out. So the ego tells itself a story, right? I'm the smart one. I'm the person they always count on. But when reality doesn't fit that script, when you don't get chosen for that big project, it causes this deep frustration and anxiety. The ego isn't just disappointed, it feels like its entire identity is being threatened. And finally, our 7th sign. This one often fuels all the others. It's this dependency on other people, not for real connection, but just to fill some kind of hole inside. This is really the ego's terror of silence, its fear of being left alone with itself. And it shows up as this compulsive need for interaction, constantly texting someone, fishing for compliments, flirting, not because you genuinely care about the other person, but because their attention is a shield against your own inner emptiness. Okay, phew, after going through all 7 of those, things can feel a little heavy. I get it. But this is the pivot point. This isn't about judging ourselves or others. It's about freedom. And that brings us to the path forward. The journey from just reacting all the time to becoming truly aware.
And look at the difference here. It's huge. When the ego is running the show, life is just this endless loop of emotional reactions, chasing after approval, and always feeling like something's missing. But when you bring awareness into the picture, everything shifts. You still have feelings, of course, but you start to observe them instead of letting them control you. You stop chasing peace and start finding it inside. You start to feel whole, all on your own.
So we land on the most important takeaway from all of this. The goal here is not to declare war on your ego. It's not about destroying it. It's about understanding it, becoming a student of it. Because when you can see it, when you finally understand its patterns, its tricks, its fears, you take away its power. You become the master of your own mind. And that just leaves one question, really. What part of your own ego are you ready to get to know first?